Hi, I am Dr. Diana Prem, Senior Lecturer from the Department of Oral Pathology, Vinayaka Mission Sankaracharya Dental College, Salem. I am here to discuss about the most important part of the first chapter in the Schaeffer's textbook of oral pathology, that is, the developmental disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth. After listening to this lecture, we expect you to know the following outcome. That is, you should be able to define the anomaly, identify the types of anomalies, list out the names of various anomalies of shape of the teeth, and the definitions and type of each anomaly, and the clinical significance of knowing about the anomalies of shape of the teeth. So, coming to the introduction part. What is a normal development? The development of human body begins with a series of cell division, multiplication and differentiation into various structures. A failure or disturbances that occur during these normal processes may result in a lack, excess or deformity of a body part. These are called developmental disorders, anomalies, abnormalities or disturbances. So, there are various anomalies based on the site where it occurs. For example, the developmental disturbances affecting the jaw, the lip or the palate, the mucosa, gingiva, tongue, lymphoid tissue, salivary gland, and particularly the teeth alone, and the eruption process and the any fissural cyst or some kind of unusual growth. Okay, so as I said, the disturbances are classified according to the site where they occur. So in these conditions, this is the entire chapter in the first chapter of Schaeffer's textbook of oral pathology, where today we will be emphasizing more on only the shape of disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth alone. Clear? So coming to the developmental disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth. Okay, we have the following conditions that are affecting the shape of the teeth, namely the gemination, fusion, concrescence, dilaceration, talon cusp, dents in dent, dents evaginators, taurodontism, enamel pearl and supernumerary teeth. Okay, so these are the 10 most common developmental disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth. Now let us go in detail about each and every. The first is gemination. What is gemination? These are anomalies which arise from an attempt at division of a single tooth germ by invagination with resultant incomplete formation of a tooth teeth. Okay, normally you all know that in a normal development of a teeth, there is different stages, that is bud stage, cap stage and bell stage of separate dental laminas. Okay, we have so many. In case of deciduous, we have 20 dental laminas, and in case of successional permanent structures, we have 32 dental laminas which develop into each teeth, isn't it? So this tooth germ, the single tooth germ, when it's trying to divide into two, we call it a gemination. Okay, this is a clinical picture of a gemination, and this picture is the simulation model which we have in our institution. Okay, so it gives you a cross-sectional picture of the inner aspect of the tooth which is trying to divide. Okay, a normal tooth germ, that is a single tooth germ which attempts to divide into two, is called as gemination. Okay, the terminologies in this chapter are very important. Okay, so next we are going to see is fusion. Okay, fusion is it arises through union of two normal separated tooth germs. It could be between two normal teeth or a normal teeth with a supernumerary tooth like a mesodents or a distomolar, and this fusion may be complete, incomplete based on the stages of tooth development at the time of union. Okay, so coming to the clinical picture. Okay, this is a clinical picture of fusion, and this is the simulation model picture of the fusion which we have in our institution. Okay, so what the again, let me emphasize that the difference between the gemination and fusion. Okay, so the fusion, as the name itself says, it is the union of two separate tooth germ. Okay, it is a separate tooth germ that unites to form a single tooth. Okay, this may be complete or incomplete, partial or complete. Okay, that is, only the crown can be fused or the entire tooth can be fused along with the root. Okay, this is the based on that we classify the fusion. So coming to the basic difference between fusion and gemination is, when a single tooth germ divides, it is called as gemination, and when two separate tooth germ tries to unite, it is called as fusion. This is a very basic important difference between gemination and fusion. Okay, the next one which we are going to see is concrescence. Concrescence is nothing but a form of fusion which occurs after root formation has been completed. Okay, that is, the teeth are united by cementum only. Okay, it is a type of fusion which is fused only at the level of cementum. Okay, this is the simulation model where it is depicting that the fusion is only at the root level. The crown portion of the tooth will not be fused with each other. If a tooth is fused along with the crown portion, we are going to call it as a common terminology as fusion. Okay, only if the fusion occurs at the level of the root, that is only among the within the cementum level, it is called as concrescence. Okay, please do remember. Okay, coming to the next anomaly is called as dilaceration. This refers to an angulation or a sharp bend or curve in the root or crown of a formed tooth. Any part of the tooth. It can be either the crown or the root. Okay, it could be any part of the crown or root. Like a molar, the apical portion of the root is curved here. Okay, this is the simulation model where the entire crown portion is bent because of any physical force during the development or anything. This kind of anomalies will occur. Okay, so the next one, these are the various dilacerated tooth which you will be able to see. So coming to the next one is talon cusp. Okay, this is called as talon cusp because of the this picture. If you see, because of the resemblance of this structure to the eagle's talon. This is the talon of a eagle where it is a hook-like appearance is there. Okay, so this structure which is developed because of some disturbances is called as various etiological factors is called as talon cusp. Okay, so it is an anomalous structure resembling an eagle's talon which projects lingually from the cingulum area of a maxillary or a mandibular permanent incisors. Most commonly, this talon's cusp occurs in the maxillary or the mandibular anterior teeth only on the lingual aspects of the anterior teeth. Okay, this name is given because of its resemblance to the talon of eagle's talon. Okay, so this is the clinical appearance of a talon's cusp. The next one, what we are going to see is called as dens in dent. It is also called as dens invaginatus, dilated composite odentum. It is a developmental variation thought to arise as a result of invagination in the surface of a tooth crown before calcification has occurred. As the description says, okay, during the normal development, you all know that the first structure that is formed is the enamel, outer surface of the enamel. The tooth forms from the tip of the crown and it keeps growing below till the cervical line. After that, only the root portion is getting formed. Okay, so during the process of development, when the enamel, dentin and the pulp is formed on the crown portion, okay, due to certain etiological factors, that various disturbances, there may be a invagination of the enamel or the dentin into the tooth, okay, giving it a tooth within a tooth appearance. This picture which we will be seeing now could describe more deeply about the structure. This is the cross section of a tooth, where if you see on the lingual aspect of the anterior teeth, the enamel is invaginating into the tooth, okay, which gives a tooth within a tooth appearance, okay. A part of dentin also may be developed, okay. So because of this reason, this dense indent is called as a tooth within a tooth appearance, okay. So this is the radiographic picture of this. This also gives you a clear picture of a tooth within a tooth appearance, okay, because of the invagination of the outer structure, that is the calcified structure, enamel and dentin within the tooth, okay. This one different anomaly. The other one is the dense evaginators. This is just the opposite of dense invaginators. The name itself will give you the difference, okay. This is not going to be a invagination. This is not within a tooth. It is completely going to pop up outside the tooth, okay. So based on the clinical appearance of this condition, okay, it is also called as Leong's premolar or a evaginated odontome, okay. Odontome, like again and again we are seeing this odontome. It is nothing but a haematomatous malformation, okay. That is the definition of a odontome, okay. And it is coming to the dense evaginators. It is a developmental condition that appears clinically as a accessory cusp or a globule of enamel on the occlusal surface between the buccal and the lingual cusp of premolars unilaterally or bilaterally. Okay, it is a globule of enamel on the occlusal surface. The most common teeth which represents dense evaginators is the premolars. Okay, usually in a premolar we have two cusps present, the buccal and a lingual cusp. Okay, and we see we will be able to see a accessory cusp or a globule of enamel at the center, that is the fossa area of the tooth. Okay, so in this, if this kind of structure occurs, it is called as dense evagi. Okay, so the next one what we are going to see is called as taurodontism. Okay, this name originated by Sir Arthur Keith in 1913. Okay, he described a dental anomaly in which the body of the tooth is enlarged at the expense of the root. That is, in the condition called taurodontism, the body of the tooth is completely enlarged at the expense of the root. Okay, it means a bull-like teeth, or it is similar to the teeth in the cut-chewing animals, that is a cow kind of animal. Okay, it is an enlargement of body and pulp chamber of the multi-rooted tooth with apical displacement of the pulpal floor and bifurcation of the roots. Okay, when I show you the picture, you will be able to understand it much better. Okay, but for now, the what is taurodontism is, it is the enlargement of the body and the pulp chamber of a multi-rooted tooth with apical displacement of the pulpal floor and bifurcation of the root. Now, this taurodontism is classified by Shaw's as hypotaurodont, mesotaurodont and hypertaurodont. Okay, the hypo being the most mildest form and the mesotaurodont being the moderate form and hypertaurodont being the more severe form with a furcation near the apex of the. This picture, if you see, it is a picture of a normal molar, okay, where the you see two roots are bifurcated, two roots, okay, where the bifurcation is at the level of the cervical line. Okay, this is the cervical line. Okay, the bifurcation of this root is at the cervical line in a normal tooth, molar tooth. Whereas in case of taurodontic tooth, as we saw, the bifurcation is at the level of the apex, okay, apex of the root, okay. The pulp is enlarged so much that it pushes the bifurcation, it keeps enlarging inside, and it pushes the bifurcation at till the apex of the root. It is a severe the form of taurodontism, that is the hypertaurodontic tooth, okay. This is the condition which occurs in case of a taurodontic tooth. Okay. So the next one is called as ectopic enamel. Okay, the word ectopic means presence other than its normal position. Okay, that is called as ectopic. Okay, so it refers to the presence of enamel in unusual location, mainly in the root of the teeth. Okay, as you all know, the enamel is the only structure that is present only on the crown portion of the tooth. Okay, that is where, that is the only place where we will see enamel, isn't it? But sometimes there will be a small globule of enamel at the root portion, that is at the bifurcation level or at the cervical level of the root portion. In this, in the place of in the cementum, over the cementum, you will find a globule of enamel, okay, which is also, because of the presence, it is also called as enamel pearl. It projects from the surface of the root. Okay, this is the clinical picture of enamel pearl or a ectopic enamel. Okay, the description is because it is present from its normal position, and because of its appearance it is also called as enamel pearl. Okay, coming to the final anomaly which we are going to see is the supernumerary root. Okay, normally in a dentition, all the anterior teeth we have a single rooted tooth. Okay, whereas in case of a premolar, maxillary first premolar alone, we have two roots, and maxillary molar three roots, and mandibular molar also we have two roots. Okay, this is the normal number of roots that we see usually. But during development, because of certain etiological factors, there could be development of increased number of roots on a tooth compared with that described in the dental anatomy, that is the normal dental anatomy. Okay, it may involve any tooth. Okay, any teeth with a single root can have a bifurcated root, can have two roots, that is a central incisor or a canine can have a bifurcated root like this. Okay, or even a premolar. This is a premolar where we see two roots. The mandibular premolar, usually it is a single rooted tooth, but here we see two roots developed. Okay, whereas in case of even a in a first premolar of a maxillary arch also, there are two roots. The names of the roots are usually buccal root and a palatal root. Okay, sometimes there might be two buccal roots. Okay, in that case it is called as a supernumerary root. Now we have seen the various developmental disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth. Okay, basically these are the common names of the developmental disturbances. Now, why are we knowing all these developmental disturbances? Okay, what is the importance? What is the clinical significance? Okay, it is sometimes aesthetically it is a disturbing factor. That is, if an anterior teeth has a gemination or a fused teeth, okay, it is aesthetically disturbing for a patient. Okay, so you should be able to identify the pathology in it, and you should be able to correct it. Okay, for that reason you should know the names of all the anomalies that are affecting the development of the teeth. Okay, and another clinical significance is a complication that you face during various procedures. Okay, in your clinic, the most important procedures which you will be doing is filling, root canal treatment, extraction, and prosthesis. Okay, these kind of developmental anomalies, if present in a patient, okay, if it is not been identified before you are going to treat the patient, you might end up in certain complications. Okay, for example, see, if you are going to do a filling for a say uh, a taurodontic tooth, okay, you will expect the pulp chamber to be at the floor of the crown. Okay, but here what actually happens in the parodontic tooth, the pulp chamber is drastically enlarged, isn't it? There is no root canal only. The furcation level is going down towards the apex. So you will not be able to find a canal, or you will not be able to treat a parodontic tooth with a root canal treatment. So how will you identify this before going into treatment? With a radiograph or a clinical image or a scan, you will be able to, OPG, you will be able to identify the anomalies that are present in the tooth. Another important factor is treatment part is your extraction. Okay, in case you have a fused teeth or a concrescence teeth, that is fused only at the level of cementum. Okay, if you're trying to extract one tooth, okay, sometimes you will end up extracting the adjacent tooth also if it is going to be a teeth that has concrescence, isn't it? So these are the important factors, and in case of a dilacerated teeth also, the root canal treatment which you are going to attempt will be a you will be facing a complication, okay, because there will be a bend in the root apex or a crown, okay, where the file will not enter and it will break, and you will have various other complications. So these are the clinical significance for you to know the various developmental disturbances affecting the shape of the teeth. Okay, that is the clinical significance for. So now we have come to the end of this lecture. These are my references and the image sources. Thank you.